Welcome to the Care Right podcast, your go-to resource for all things elder care. Guiding us through this journey is Annalee Kruger, the founder of Care Right Incorporated, and she has been steadfastly supporting families across the United States. Each episode brings you expert insights, innovative strategies, and practical advice, ensuring that you're well equipped to provide the best possible care for your loved ones. Expect to gain valuable knowledge, learn from real-life stories, and get inspired to take action in your own caregiving journey. So buckle up as we dive into an in-depth discussion of elder care planning and together embrace the journey of caring for aging loved ones on the Care Right podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Caregiver Crisis podcast with Care Right Incorporated. I am Annalee Kruger, the owner of Care Right Incorporated. We work with families nationwide in developing customized aging plans. So oftentimes, adult children find themselves thrust into the role of family caregiving, and they often have not had any type of conversation or family meeting about the what ifs of aging. And so often when families try to have their own family meeting, it's hard to do because of family dynamics or things that were said or done 20, 30, 40 years ago. And that all bubbles up when we have aging loved ones. And even honestly, even the closest knit of families can really struggle with the aging process. And you'd hope that the aging process would bring families together, but it often does not. And so I facilitate family meetings for families across the country. And we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of aging. What are your goals as you age? You know, for mom and dad, we bring the whole family in on this. So it's all family meetings. What are your goals? What do you have for resources? What's working well? What's not working well? And where are you going to, if you need care, who's going to provide it? And where are you going to live to get care if you can't stay at home? So it's really a customized aging plan approach. Ideally for families that are proactive minded, that say, oh my gosh, I can see the writing on the wall with mom and dad. They're starting to, maybe not do as well at home, maybe falling or having some ER visits. Those should be the red flags that, hey, we need to be thinking about a plan here and putting a plan in place. That said, most of the families come to me in crisis. It's easy to think that we have more time to figure out what to do with mom and dad, but we don't. We just absolutely don't. Dementia progresses, people have strokes, people fall and hit their head. I mean, life just throws us a lot of curveballs. So we want to be addressing that head on and not, with our head in the sand, because that's when we run awry with care options and family dynamics. So today I am super thrilled to have Kim Best on the podcast. As you know, on the podcast, I really try to find really cool people doing really cool things out there to help better improve you as a family, your quality of life, your quality of relationships, your lifestyle, so that you can focus on being the best you, and you can focus on being the best caregiver to your family. And you can just, spend your time and your energy doing positive and productive things. So Kim Best, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. We actually met a few weeks ago and we just clicked like instantly, like we just hit it off. And the time we had together went so fast. I'm like, okay, this is a really cool person. This is a new friend for life. So Kim is super cool. I'm going to go through her biography just to give you, we get the best of the best here on our podcast. So listen up. And then we're going to talk about what Kim does and her amazing book that she wrote. So Kimberly Best is an RN. She is a Tennessee Rule 31 listed civil mediator and Tennessee Rule 31 trained family mediator. Kim's practice focuses on family mediation, health and elder care mediation, civil and business mediation, and conflict coaching in Franklin, Tennessee. She is currently serving her second term on the board of the Tennessee Association of Professional Mediators. Kim is also a volunteer mediator with the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office Dispute Resolution Program and Community Police Unification Program. In addition to nursing school, Kim attended graduate school at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte in clinical community psychology. She obtained a master's degree in conflict management from Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee, and a certificate in conflict management consulting from Pepperdine University. Kim is also trained in transformation mediation as at Hofstra University and healthcare mediation at the University of South Florida. You have been all over the world.
I've done some schooling.
She is a working member of the Association of Conflict Resolution Elder Mediation Professional Development Group, as well as a working member of Mediators Beyond Borders International and a member of the American Bar Association Dispute Resolution Development Committee. She is passionate about helping others resolve conflicts in a productive, non-litigious way and committed to finding the optimal solutions for all parties. Kim's unique, diverse experience and her love of learning clearly inform her work in conflict management. She is the author of How to Live Forever, a guide to writing the final chapter of your life story. Very good. Good job, Vanna. And she's holding up the book for those that are listening. For those that are listening and not watching, because they're like, why is there a pause? So Kim held up her book for those that are watching the podcast, not just listening. She's a speaker and a trainer, and I just want to welcome you so that we have time to talk about your book and why you wrote your book and your why. So take it from here. Kim, welcome to the podcast. Thank you a gazillion times over again for all you do. Families need the help that you and I offer them. And I'm just so glad to have met you. Families need to know that they are not alone in this journey. You do a lot of other work outside of aging, but like for this, families aren't alone. And these are hard conversations to have. And that's why a lot of people don't have them.
Right. And I always say that death and dying is the final taboo. I say the final frontier taboo subject that we don't talk about. And first of all, I want to thank you for the work you do. You're absolutely right. We kind of heart bonded immediately. And I think the reason when I listen to you talk, Annalee, is the sincerity and the genuineness of your work and how much you truly care about what you do. And we share that and we know that. And thank you for having me here. I'm honored to be a guest on your program. I wrote the book, let's see, decades and decades ago. I started my nursing career. And from the very first person, a 19-year-old RN sitting at the bedside of my first patient that I saw die. And I was struck with the thought that here was a book, like this woman lying here was full of stories. And I wondered what she loved and what she hated and what she succeeded at. I wondered at her story. And I literally pictured the bookend closing as she was dying. It was just a visual I had in that moment. And through this career, that vision continued every person that I saw. And I worked in every intensive care there is. I worked in trauma and ultimately in the emergency department. So I learned pretty quickly that most people don't wake up one day and decide today's the day they're going to die.
Yep.
And we also learn in nursing and in medicine that most people haven't made a plan on how to proceed when, not if, but when things go sideways for them. I gave a talk yesterday to a group of seniors, and a woman with Lou Gehrig's came. She's in a wheelchair, and she came up to me after the talk, and she said, "I know this is my last year." She said, "And I also know that this is harder on my family, me dying, than it is for me."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we see in medicine. We see people completely unprepared, making the best guess they can. And or leaving the decisions up to strangers, which is the people in medicine who maybe are geared to keep someone alive at all costs. And there is a cost. It can be pain and suffering. I know this, Annalee, that as medicine has advanced and we live longer and we can easier cure some things, the price for that is that it's taking longer and it's harder to die. So for this, I wrote this book. And the reason was to help to bring conversation and planning and make this process, which is painful, there's no way around that, one that can help people walk the fine line between hope and regret.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love
Because,
that.
yeah, because when I talk to people, we all know stories of people who something happened to, or their funeral, they died, and no one knows what they wanted. And you carry that. These final moments are your legacy.
Yeah.
And then they're the memory. I had one client tell me, what I decide to do at the end is the memory that my family will take with them. Because it's such a powerful moment, right? So then I talk with people who have prepared and who know the steps their family wants. And even when they say goodbye, even when they let them go, as painful as that is, there is a lifelong peace in knowing that whether they agreed with it or not, that person got what they wanted.
That's right.
And you can't replace that. You can't replace that. So because there's an easier way, and if we talk about it, if we bring this to light and talk about it, and you're a mediator, I'm a mediator, and that means, you know, we hold a space that is safe to have the conversations. And it's getting more complicated as time goes on. I mean, the conflicts are more complicated. Conflicts are on the rise between families. There's blended families. There's more distance. There's a lot of reasons that I won't bore you all with on why this is true. And every family, there is no perfect family, y'all. So if you have we have uncle this and sister that and brother that, yeah, every family does. But again, we don't talk about it.
Right. And we were talking, offline before I hit the record button, even, and I talk to families, literally, obviously every single day. And I say, the aging process is bumpy. You would hope that the process or dementia journey or dementia progression would bring families together, but it often does not. And even the closest knit families, it's just bumpy. Even if you've got the best relationship in your mind, you've got the best relationships and you are working as a team, the reality is you're in uncharted territory. You don't know what you don't know. It's a scary journey. And, when you finally see reality of, oh my goodness, mom and dad are really failing, your relationship changes, your thought process changes. And when I ask moms and dads, what are your goals as you age? It's almost always the same thing. I want to age in place at home. I don't want to be a burden on my kids, right? That comes right out of their mouth right after they say, I want to age at home. But guess who is calling me for an aging plan, right? It's the kids. And when I ask the kids, what are your goals for your parents as they age? They almost always say the same thing. I want them to be happy. I want them to be safe. I want them to have the best quality of life, the best quality of care, and the most independence as possible. Well, the only way to accomplish those two sets of goals is through aging planning and family meetings, right? So we can actually talk. So, and then you've got the families that, something was said 30 years ago and that made everybody mad and broke the family. And now dad's aging and mom had a stroke. And what do we do now? And so that's why it's so important that, we all as professionals lock arms and say, hey, world, we are here to help you, because it is a scary journey,
Yeah, it really is. And I want to challenge a little bit that the things that you mentioned that families come to, just maybe a little new way of thinking at it. And you talked about safety and you talked about quality of life. And I think quality of life is really, really important. But it's often at odds with the word safety. So when I meet with older people, most of the time their families want to bubble wrap them. And while a human value, a human need is autonomy. That is the freedom to make our own decisions, to live as fully as we can under the circumstances that we have. And that's how I define quality of life. On the other hand, we know we're frailer, and if we fall, this, that, or the other thing may happen. And often in the name of safety, we rob the people we love of quality of life. Is there risk? Yes, but there is risk to a dying person. right? So they can live a little bit longer, but how happy are they for being bubble wrapped? And when I work with the older population and talk about this, they're like, I had one woman say, I broke both of my arms and I would do it all over again because I was doing what I wanted to do. And I know that applies with living at home. Yes, it's scary because there's more risks. It really is. It's like watching, maybe a terrible analogy, but your child learned to ride a bike. You know they might fall and hurt themselves, but you're going to let them live anyway. And that still applies for most people in an aging population. So for a lot of us, for caregiving, for often in caregiving institutes, the safety has to trump the quality of life. And I want to challenge that be reversed, or at least balanced more, and not have safety at the expense of quality of life, especially if older people know the risk. Right. Because again, they're a dying population, and things can happen sooner for sure, but it's hard to languish dying as well. It's, it's taking longer and it's harder to die.
Yep. And it's, I don't know about your experience, but I've been in healthcare for also 30 years. That's a long time, but things have just really changed. When I first started, I could easily go to Ethel and Marvin's house and facilitate a family meeting because the kids all lived down the block, or at least they were in the same zip code, right? But as families started moving away from each other, and you've got mom in Tucson, Arizona, dad in Florida, and step parents, and blended families, and families that I only see their parents once or twice a year or less. It's hard to keep tabs on, okay, how are they really doing? Because moms and dads can put on a pretty good show on that, every couple week phone call for 10 or 15 minutes. But wow, when you go there and you spend the weekend, you're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. So that's where we talk about, okay, what can we all agree to do? Like, what can we all agree on to help satisfy mom and dad's goals and the adult kids' goals? And honestly, in my opinion, the only way to do that is through talking, through
right.
So that long lost art of, talking.
Oh, you're so right. And this is a conflict moment, and conflict means it's a problem to solve. And people ask me for what I do for a living. I say, well, I do the two things that nobody wants to talk about. I work in conflict and end of life. So, but if we can make the assumption that conflict isn't bad and the people with the conflict are not bad people, it's just a problem to solve. And the thing is, very few people have learned the tools to deal with conflict. And when you have your own skin in the game, it's harder. So I tell people I am really, really good, and I am really good at conflict as long as it's other people's.
Yeah.
I like to tell a story of my son who, when he was a teenager, I was tucking him in one night, and his room was a mess. And I'm like, son, what is it with this room? What mess? And I'm like, this mess. I don't see anything. Well, it's a trigger for me when I see a truth and someone else denies it. I mean, I know my trigger. So I'm getting frustrated. And about the time I want to take a pillow and smother him, instead, I turn and walk out of the room, which is not a good way to do conflict. To just leave it is a terrible way to do conflict. It leaves the other people feeling stranded. I mean, I'm walking down the steps and I hear this voice behind me say, and you call yourself a conflict manager. And I loved that because it reminded me how hard it is to see everything when we're the one in there. And I have my muse. I have someone that helps me see what I can't see.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. That's what we do. And it's a good thing because it helps have better outcomes. It can be a difficult process to walk through. Conflict isn't easy, but I can promise you that it's easier than the pileup of trash that happens if we don't walk through it.
Well, and really just the angst of carrying around all this negative energy, angst every day for, literally decades. Some of these families have been struggling for decades.
Right.
And what's really cool is, when they have been carrying around all this angst and conflict, and they dread holidays because they have to be together, but then once they start working with a properly trained and effective mediator, it's really cool because after a few sessions of having that neutral person just, have some dialogue about all of this, then they have that aha moment of grief, actually, of, oh my goodness, I can't believe we wasted regret. We wasted decades of our lives, and our kids don't know each other because of our angst with each other as siblings. And now our kids don't, they didn't get to grow up together like what most of us would want our kids to grow up with their cousins. And so it's really cool it's a powerful thing to be able to get families from point A to in their journey to over here on the other side of that, where they learn communication skills and techniques, and planning is part of that, and so it's just really cool. Tell me in the next few minutes that we have left, tell me like 2 or 3 things from your book that you would want people to know, and how can they get your book?
Yeah, so the book is available everywhere. Amazon, hold it up again.
There you go.
It looks like this. And if you Google how to live forever, other things will come up. So the writing the final chapter of your life story, or by my name, it's under Kimberly Best and not Kim Best. It's just divided into legal decisions, healthcare decisions based on quality of life, questions to ask your doctor and stuff. Writing your story, leaving your story as your legacy, and why stories are important. Stories make us immortal, hence my title. Other people learn from our stories. And then I talk about the conflicts with family, and I give tools for dealing with conflict. I talk about planning your celebration of life, and I give some examples of some super creative ways that people have done it. Then I talk about mediation. I describe it in depth, and I want to say to all the people that know now that we're both mediators, and even in your line of work, it is never about blame. It is never about who's right and who's wrong. And almost every time I meet with people, I see the good in both of them. I just see where their pain keeps the other person from seeing that.
Yeah.
And I want to say too, that even if you can't get your whole family together to help make this better, most certainly one person showing up. So I call that conflict coaching. 1 or 2 part of your family. Families are a system. And in a system, if you change one part of it, the whole thing will change. So even empowering yourself with the dynamics for that.
Yeah. Yep.
Or the tools for the dynamics for that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's available on Amazon and
Barnes and Nobles, any bookseller, you can get it. Yeah.
Yep. Good deal. Good deal. Kim, this has been so great. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast today. If anybody would want to learn more about you or reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Very good. So Best Conflict Solutions has all my contact. That's at my website, Best Conflict Solutions. Or if you Google Kimberly Best, my stuff will come up. So please email me. I'm happy to answer any questions. And you're in good hands with Annalee.
And likewise, there need to be like a million more of us out there trying to accomplish this so that families can feel a lot better about things instead of all this negative energy that's holding them back from their best life. So
yeah, I agree.
Excellent. Well, good. That sounds good. I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. And thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, Annalee.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Care Right podcast. We hope today's discussion has provided you with valuable insights. If so, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our podcast with others who might find it helpful. Remember, Care Right is more than just a podcast. It's a community dedicated to supporting family caregivers with comprehensive care planning, crisis management, and resources for every stage of aging. Stay connected with us for future episodes as we continue to explore essential topics in aging planning, elder care, and financial planning. Until next time, take care, plan wisely, and remember, you're not alone in your caregiving journey.